So who are you going to call to unravel the bizarre, crazy world of the United States versus Jimmy Kimmel? Well, my pal Bill Carter, that's who. The best-selling author and late-night TV expert is next on Brio TV, the podcast. Hi there, listener. Thank you for joining me today on Brio TV, the podcast. I'm your host, Bill Brio, and we have a hot topical topic for you today. Well, Bill Carter is the author of several bestsellers, including The War for Late Night and The Late Shift. The former New York Times television columnist was also executive producer of the CNN series The Story of Late Night. He can be seen sharing valuable insights on late night TV on places such as CNN and at the excellent online site Late Nighter. Bill, great to be talking to you again.
Well, Bill, it's great to talk to you again. And you didn't mention the fact that we're great old friends.
We are great old friends. That is the best part. And we've had a lot of fun at the television, the TCA press tours over the years.
Yep.
My goodness. And the one memorable occasion, you and I and there was a few of the, back then it was all newspaper writers.
Yeah.
We would gather at the end to talk to a guy like Jimmy Kimmel. And finally, Kimmel just looked at us and said, "What is this, a high school reunion? Let's go to dinner," right?
Yeah.
So we've had some.
We had a great dinner with him. I mean, that was. We ate half a cow or something, didn't we?
We ate a cow and a pig. Yeah, he went to this crazy little restaurant. It was they had like 3 tables.
Yeah, it was like a private restaurant.
It just kept bringing meat. So that was unique. Jimmy always struck me as different than a lot of the talk show hosts we typically meet. He was a down-to-earth guy for sure.
Absolutely.
Right.
A very good guy, Bill, honest to God. He's a good guy. You know, he takes care of his staff. He's devoted to his family. He's, very considerate guy, so.
It shocks me in the middle of the chaos and madness that has been his life the last couple of weeks that you can message him and he'll still message back. I'm floored that he would have the time or would bother with that. And it's pretty unique, right?
Yeah, I just sent him a message saying, I admire your guts or something, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, "Thanks, I need all the help I can get," or something. He was right on top of that. So, yeah.
We said he did a skit. I don't know if you saw this several months back. Something I thought would get him tossed off the air sooner.
I don't miss that.
He had Trump laying eggs. He was like, I can't remember the exact thing, but it was an animated thing. It was ridiculous. And he was literally pooping out eggs. And I messaged and said, we watched and thought, oh my God, you're going to need asylum in Canada. So Sandra here says, come anytime.
Yeah.
And he messaged back. He said, tell Sandra to put the sheets on the couch.
Yeah.
So anyway, listen, let's get at this thing that just happened this Tuesday or this whole week. Kimmel's been at the theater and the Brooklyn Academy of Music, the Howard Gilman Opera House, BAM, I guess it's called.
Yes.
And beautiful, beautiful theater. And
absolutely lovely theater. Beautiful place. Yeah.
Isn't it? I mean, I don't know, Bill, that the way that set was looked like a Coney Island Broadway production. I don't think it's ever been quite that elaborate because he's been to Brooklyn many times before, right?
Yes, he has. He's gone every year now for, 5-6 years in a row.
Yeah.
And it gets him, a little extra press and publicity, which he likes to. He didn't need that this year. But they go all out. And, I was there Wednesday night, and it was spectacular. I mean, the crowds were insane. And, and he did a great bit with Seth Meyers' brother playing Gavin Newsom.
When you first saw that, I mean, it looked like Gavin Newsom, right? I mean, it's a pretty good impression that he does.
He has been doing it on Jimmy's show.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah.
And I think people initially are completely taken in. I mean, he looks ridiculously like him. And I saw him in the green room after the show. I saw Josh, right? And I
Yeah.
said, "Have you actually met Newsom?" And he said, "No, but he sent me a birthday, video." And I forget the joke, but there was some joke.
That's
And
funny.
so, he's taking it in good humor, but they haven't actually met. But it is remarkable how much he looks like him.
It was a very funny bit. He comes out riding a bicycle.
Yes, and talks about all these crazy California isms,
Yeah,
and then makes fun of Seth,
right.
saying, yeah, at least you're not like that guy, Seth Meyers. And Seth comes out and says, "Come on, Josh, you have to do this, Josh." Yeah, so it's really good, and I saw the two of them there in the green room. They're very close brothers, so it's cool.
I'm sure they are. And Bill, what's it like to be there present when that's happening? You've got Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, and Seth Meyers on stage facing
Yep,
2,000 people who
yeah,
adore them or just
yeah,
screaming.
yeah.
What does that moment say? What is that message to America?
Um, they appreciate what's happening. They appreciate that these guys are under duress,
Yeah,
and they're not backing down. I think that's kind of an American thing, and I think they have made the point that they will take the risks. I mean, beyond the fact that they came after Kimmel's professional life, right?
yeah.
They wanted to get him off. The government wanted to get him off the air. I mean, Trump has been trying forever to get him off the air. Beyond that, I don't know if you know what the New York Post did.
No,
So this is a New York Post is an incredibly pro-Trump publication, and
right.
when Kimmel was, in his hiatus there, his forced hiatus off the air, they published a thing about how he won't have any trouble because he has three houses, I think, and then they showed where the houses were.
Oh, my God. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's,
And it was, a Google Zoom thing, easily identifiable, especially his one in the Hollywood Hills, which I've been to. People would know where this is if they wanted to come after him. I mean, it was outrageous and irresponsible to the max. And I know his publicist, Louis Kay, who I know well, went, ape shit and went after them, saying, if
yeah.
anything happens to this guy, you guys are done. And, you think he has little kids, for God's sake?
Oh, God.
This is where they
Yeah.
live.
No, I mean, I imagine him and Jon Stewart, they must have security around the clock now, right?
Uh, I asked about it and they didn't want to talk about it, but it's
Right.
apparent that they do. It doesn't seem to phase Jimmy. I mean, he doesn't back down, that guy.
Amazing.
And, and I think they were unbelievably angry about it. But I think they're kind of like aware that this is the way it's going to be now. People are
Yeah.
getting shot in America, like,
Yeah.
basically waking up in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's a very troubled time, extremely troubled time in this country.
It's not really a laughing matter, but the notion that Guillermo now needs security.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, that's where the
Exactly.
madness is. And Kimmel, of course, from Brooklyn. He's from Mill Basin.
Yes.
Bill, you grew up in the greater New York area. I know
I grew up
Queens.
in Brooklyn. I
Brooklyn. Oh,
grew up in
okay.
Brooklyn. I know where
Okay.
Mill Basin is.
Okay. We explain that to exactly where is Mill Basin. I'm not
Well, I
familiar.
mean, I would have to tell you, it's sort of near the water,
Okay.
right? Brooklyn is huge. People don't realize
Yeah. Right.
it's only a part of New York. But, if you separated it, it'd be the fourth biggest city in the country.
Right. Wow.
It's huge.
Wow.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Uh,
So it's an incredible accumulation of neighborhoods. So he's probably 20 minutes by car with no traffic from that arena,
wow.
essentially. And where I live was maybe 10 minutes from there.
And he had to get in a car and get from
Oh, yeah.
there to Colbert. Did they make it
That was
with a
the night
minute
I
to
was there. And
spare?
it was all their planning. And I said, when I got there, I said, "Did you guys consider a helicopter?"
Did they?
Yeah. Well, and they said yes. They had to think about that. But then they moved. All they did was move Colbert's start time back and make it flexible. Because,
Good. Yeah.
So Colbert left right after his interview segment, jumped in a car, and got into Manhattan. I don't know how long it took them, but I know on my own experience that it can take forever. If you are in any cross street that gets blocked, you might as well get out and walk because you're not going to move.
They have, first of all, they have to cross a bridge at rush hour.
They do have to cross a bridge or a tunnel. They got to do one or the other. They have to go across the East River.
Wow.
And they got to get into Manhattan. And then they got to get on like the FDR Drive or something and go uptown. It's like, believe me, I've done it. It's not pleasant at rush hour. And it was the first thing I thought of because I drove in and, they let me, the taping was going to be at 4:30. And they said, the VIP entrance will be open at 3 if you get there at 3. So I got there at 3 fairly easily. Tremendous crowd outside. Tremendous crowd outside to get in. And I went in and they had like a cafe, which is the normal cafe for the Opera House, I guess. Mm. And they had it done in like Brooklyn stuff, Nathan hot dogs and things like that, and you've been to Jimmy's Green Room in LA, which is a party every night. That's a fantastic green room.
Yeah.
So I thought that was the green room, but it wasn't the green room. That was like all the audience people were there, and his publicist came down and found me and said, Jimmy wants to say hello before he goes on. So I'll take you up to the entrance to the stage when he walks by. And I said, okay, that's great. And they said, do you want to sit in the audience? I said, not really. I don't want to be in the audience because I rather watch it as a TV show if I'm going to write about it,
Wow.
So they said, well, then go to the green room. I said, this is not the green room. No, there's an actual green room. So that's what I did. That's why that's where they brought the Meyers brothers and his incredible manager, James Baby Doll Dixon.
Same manager for Colbert and Meyers, right?
And Stewart.
Oh my God.
And Stewart. He had all of them. So he was there because 2 of his clients were there, and he's a character out of Guys and Dolls. He's that kind of New York guy with an accent, but he's had an amazing run with clients. But anyway, so that and then like the Lauren Roseman, who runs PR for Saturday Night Live, was there because her guy was there, Seth Meyers there, and their first show was Saturday night. So I had a chance to talk to her, and what was interesting about that is they booked Bad Bunny as the host, and Bad Bunny was announced as the entertainment for the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and he was immediately attacked. Immediately, they attacked him. They said, why can't they have an American? What is this? Why can't they have an American? The guy's from Puerto Rico. Guess what?
Yes,
he's an American.
Wow.
And this vicious, and I don't mean just trolls online. I mean Republican politicians went after the guy. Wow. He is a Trump critic for sure, but he's an American. What is this crap? And now they've said they're going to send ICE agents to the Super Bowl because Bad Bunny is performing, and they think some of his crowd will show up.
Wow.
Well, we are in a state like no one could have ever imagined. Rod Serling couldn't have imagined this.
So instead of just planes going overhead at the Super Bowl, there'll be tanks.
Maybe tanks will be surrounding, and ICE agents, grabbing people. Obviously, they like to throw people to the ground now, so they'll have a lot of opportunity there. If you happen to be Hispanic looking or you speaking a little Spanish, look out. Yeah. I don't think particularly a lot of the people thereafter will afford the $800 ticket or whatever it is for the Super Bowl.
I don't know. Even if you're,
they're going to show up. The green room was very interesting and entertaining. And first they brought me to the entrance of the stage, and Jimmy stopped and gave me a hug, and
nice.
That was lovely. And I told him how proud I was of him.
Yeah.
But and he thanked me for what I've been writing and the interviews that I've been giving. But he probably would have invited me to dinner afterwards, but of course he had to run up to Colbert. So
sure, yeah. Kind of busy for sure. Don't go away. Bill Carter will be right back after these messages. Have Have you been watching NCIS Tony and Ziva on Paramount Plus? Anthony Tony Donazo Jr. is a former NCIS special agent played by Michael Weatherly. Yes, he's a charming, sometimes comedic, often flirtatious guy. Ziva David, played by Cote de Pablo, first appears as a Mossad liaison to NCIS and becomes one of the core characters despite her burdens from the past. Together, the Tiva storyline is one of the most beloved and slow-burning in NCIS history. Catch up with Tony and Ziva as they take their act to Europe, where, between all the banter and bickering, they continue to take on the world in this new series. And remember, there's a mountain of entertainment on Paramount Plus. And we're back with Bill Carter. Does it seem impossible that this all happened like just a little over 2 weeks ago? You know,
well, I tell you, when they pulled him off the air, which was late in the day for me, because it was 4:00, I think, in LA. They were getting ready to do the show, so it's already 7:00 for us, right? And so I had to jump in and write something, and I knew I wasn't going to get an interview with Jimmy, but I did send him a message, and he just said "stand by" or something, But so and then, of course, because it was a late night story and really a gigantic national story, big national story, the biggest media story of the year, probably.
Yeah.
I was asked to be on many outlets, and I did a lot of interviews, and not even only in the U.S. I did England and I did Canada. I was on.
That's right.
CBC and TV, and Australia checked in. It was a big honking story, and I think that was true because as much as it was like a story of a late night host and entertainer in conflict with the president, it was an enormous free speech First Amendment story.
Right.
Enormous. That the government was doing this interruption in this guy's career based on the animus of the president because they didn't like his jokes. I mean, the pretext that it had something to do with the assassination was absurd. It was absurd. And I actually got pulled into a couple of reports on Sky News in Australia, which surprised me. I don't know why they thought somebody in Canada would have an unusual or an interesting. Your reputation is worldwide, Bill. That's
I thought it went several blocks across Orangeville, but it's interesting. There's a place that was once a Rupert Murdoch operation, and the hosts were more conservative than you usually encounter in Canada. And it was interesting how they were kind of pushing against, Kimmel kind of asking for it, questions like that, which surprised me. And I had to sort of say, this is rather unusual. This free speech thing is sort of important to people, it looks like. And, that side of it, that this is something you might expect on a headline from China or Russia, Yeah. So anyway.
I was on, CNN has this basically shouting match show at 10:00 where they have people sit around and shout at each other.
Yeah.
And I hadn't been on it, but they invited me to come on it. And I thought, I'm going to do this. But I was the expert, right? So
right.
I laid out what the issues were, but also what the FCC's role was and the history of them intervening and things like that at the top of the show. And then people started yelling at each other. But I jumped in. I thought, okay, I'm the expert. But when somebody said, and the conservative guy said something just flat wrong,
right?
And I jumped in it, and I said, no, the FCC doesn't do this. This is incredibly unusual. I said, if you went back 30 years, there's been one case of a license being suspended in 30 years, and that was a bribery situation. I said, this is nothing. The free speech thing could not possibly be used as an excuse.
Right.
So. And he backed off because he knew I knew what I was talking about. So I didn't. Right. He didn't shout back at me. But
wow, good for you.
But that is true. I mean, and you did get a sense that they saw blood in the water, and they're sharks. So they thought, okay, now we can chew on Kimmel. And Disney was, waffling. Let's face it, they were waffling. and Disney was getting a lot of blowback. But the key, I think, or one key, the main key was that they ran into a guy with a spine. But one of the big keys was Ted Cruz and Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul and several other conservative voices said, look, we hate the guy, but you can't do this.
Right.
You can't have the government step in and say, we don't like you, you're off the air. We don't do that. Now, they didn't say we don't do that. They just said they could use that against us. But my point was, no, America doesn't do this. It's not, we don't have that. And I said this over and over. I was happy to say it, particularly in the British interviews. We got rid of the king because we didn't want that.
Exactly. Like
the king, I said the reason it's the First Amendment is it was the first thing they thought of. You're not shutting us up. You're not stopping us from publishing what we want. You're not doing that. We're not going to have that anymore. So the idea that now we're going to bring it back is so grotesquely un-American. Like, it was so over the top. And I firmly believe and still believe that despite Trump's lying and all he does, most Americans are like, no, you can't do that. You just can't do that. It's like,
well, it seemed from here, Bill, that the murder of Charlie Kirk was the excuse to just get him on anything. And that first show back Monday, Kimmel was very obviously made overtures to the widow and said this is terrible. And then, he started to talk about it on Monday, and I thought over the weekend you could see what was happening. And the fact that his comments were kind of obtuse, so really weren't direct targeted attacks on anybody, but he was just sort of saying off the top of his head what people would be thinking. But it was enough of an excuse with Kirk that they thought, we got him now because with this death, he's ours.
Exactly. He never said anything derogatory about Charlie Kirk at all. He didn't demean the guy at all.
No.
He said nothing like that. He just said, they're using this for political purposes, which they were actually. They were trying to say it's another trans person. Look how awful they are. That's what they were trying to do. And so he disparaged that, not Charlie Kirk. And then he pointed out, rightfully, that basically it was a setup for a Trump joke. Because the Trump joke was that instead of being all broken up about it, he started talking about his dance ballroom that he was building. And that was, he used it as a setup to a Trump joke. So it was what late night hosts do.
Right. But the joke was that he reacted like a 4-year-old.
Exactly.
Which was exactly right. But if this is the most thin-skinned person in the world, that there's going to be consequences. It was fascinating. And then, so I wasn't shocked when Hammer came down, but what do you think that Ted Cruz then, I mean, how significant a turning point is that? Is it something with any legs? Is that going to last, It's
interesting because he did kind of stick his neck out and get some blowback from the right.
Yeah.
It was then basically covered by several others saying the same thing, including Joe Rogan and media people. But they want to exercise power brutally. They do want to do that. But it's interesting to me that in the back of their head, some of them are afraid, like, if we go too far and we lose power, we're in trouble. They're going to come after us for doing all this shit. And I think that is in their heads a little bit. And I think he expressed that, and several others on the right have expressed that. Now, I don't think that will stop Trump in any way, because Trump is in the position now of thinking, there's no way to hold me accountable. I have both houses of Congress, and the Supreme Court is literally in my pocket. They're approving almost anything I do. So how far can he push it is the question. What was interesting, Bill, was that the FCC guy, Brendan Carr, who is a Trump lackey to the max, this guy. I mean, he's the one who, before he was appointed to this, he on his jacket, he had a lapel pin that was Trump's head. That was his lapel pin.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so he comes out, he thinks he's got them now, and he says, you can do it the easy way, you can do it the hard way, right? How big a threat, how much more of a threat can you make than that? And then when this starts to go a little bad with people saying, he comes back and says, well, I never threatened anyone's license. I never did that, because talk about being over the line. If that gets, somebody else in there, they're going to say, you use the power to threaten someone's license. That is not just wrong, it's probably illegal.
Right.
So he backed off a little bit. But interestingly, Trump never hesitated. He started saying, I can take their license. I can take their license. NBC better watch out because I'm coming after their license if they don't get rid of Fallon and Myers.
Yeah, that was literally his next tweet was that these guys are losers, and he named them, and he's going to get Jimmy Fallon.
Yes.
Shocking.
Yes.
Shocking.
And the other thing, of course, was the stations. Okay, so the station groups that pulled out,
yeah,
right? One of them has both had major business with the government, right? So this Next Star group wants to expand their holdings. They're at the limit. They won't be able to do it without government approval. They're on their knees to the government. Now, they're a right-wing group anyway, so they don't like Kimmel. And Sinclair is a hugely right-wing group. And they both have a lot of stations, not a disproportionate number of ABC stations, but they have a lot of stations. So they were actually threatened a little by Carr. Carr basically went to he was looking for a group that would play ball with him.
Right.
And he went to them and said, this was an outrageous thing. And, why does he get to say these things? Whatever. And they pull him off the air. And then Sinclair pulls him off the air. But I was interviewed several times about this. And I said, if ABC stands by Jimmy, these guys are in trouble. They can't exist without that network affiliation.
Right.
If ABC says, you know what, guys, you get 5 preemptions and then your contract can be voided. 5 times. If you do it 5 times, more than 5 times, your contract can be voided. It's unusual in it now because in America there are far fewer unaffiliated stations than there used to be, where a network could say, and if you don't like it,
right,
I'm taking your station in Buffalo, and we're going over to channel 92. But they can use streaming now. There's ways to go around these. And, if you tell them, they have big markets. They have St. Louis and Washington and several other major markets. So let's say it's Washington. Well, they got an NFL team. Well, you want Monday Night Football or you don't want Monday Night Football?
Right. That's the carrot. Yeah. So it's not just
St. Louis. The University of Missouri has a really good football team this year, and they're on ESPN a lot. So you want that or you not want that? I mean, they had leverage. So I said, these guys will cave. They cannot survive without that ABC affiliation. So if ABC does the right thing, which universities in America haven't done, and the law firms haven't done, and CBS News wouldn't do, and ABC wouldn't do, and just say, no way, no, we're not going to go along with you. And then finally they did, and you see what happened. The stations caved that way.
Would advertisers also have gone to those affiliates and said, hey, wait a minute, we're missing out on the biggest bonanza ever? Well, do you think it went that far?
Well, you mean when the show came back?
Yeah.
I don't think they would probably have done that. Well, the locals, they only sell local ads, right?
Right.
They sell some national ads, but mostly they sell local ads. So if you're the local car dealer or whatever, you might say, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Instead of having Kimmel on 4 nights a week, which is an original show, you're running some old repeats of funniest videos or something, right?
Yeah.
Yes, they had vulnerabilities, and so did Disney, because even in the brief period of time when he was off, there was a huge backlash. A lot of people who were saying, "I'm not going to your parks anymore."
Right.
I'm canceling Hulu. I'm canceling Disney Plus. You guys are cowards. We're not going to stand for this. And the Hollywood community was like, why should we work for this company? They cave at the first sign of trouble. And all the reasons I thought Iger, who I've known forever since he first started at ABC, I thought he will not allow. He's not going to go on his knees to this. He can't. His reputation will completely be trashed.
And Bill, doesn't his wife work at the Annenberg Institute, teaching journalism ethics? And
she does.
She might have had a word or two with Bob.
She might have, but I think he was under a lot of pressure because. So one of the other things I said was a lot of people were pissed off right away and pulled things out, and now they haven't gone back. Wait, that was terrible. They waffled, and I said, look. They're the one company that hasn't given up. They stood, at least they did come back and stand up.
Yeah.
And you have to give them a little bit of leeway because it was right at the time they had a taper show. They didn't know what to say, what Jimmy should do that night. They basically called timeout, is what they did.
Yeah.
Let's turn the heat down and talk about it until we can work it out. And it only it came back on a Tuesday, right? So it went through the weekend and Monday, and then Monday they announced he was coming back on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And
they had Kimmel back so
2 or 3
quickly.
days of shows.
Yeah,
So.
but it was back so quickly. I didn't have a chance to cancel my Disney Plus subscription.
Well, a lot of people didn't.
Yeah. But
anyway, so I was like, I don't think you should go all in on blaming Disney, because at least, unlike these ridiculous universities and law firms, they didn't say, "Oh no, don't hurt us. We'll give you money. Don't hurt us."
And Disney also stood by Jimmy for years when I'm sure they were hearing all kinds of
Absolutely.
Get that guy off the air. So
yes.
You do have to give them some credit for sure. We'll have more from Bill Carter after this short break. Well, time once again to check in on Hollywood Suite with our pal, Emily Gagne. Emily, what's new?
Well, Bill, are you ready to face the music?
Yes, I am, Emily. What do you got?
Well, we've got September soundtracks, so iconic films with great soundtracks from throughout film history. Stuff like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, The Judy Garland A Star Is Born, or if you're into more modern stuff, Sign of the Times from Prince. We even have Notorious, the film about the Notorious B.I.G.
Wow, that's pretty cool. What else you got?
We also have, and I'm very excited to share this, an Oasis documentary from 2005. If you have been following the Oasis news cycle, they're touring again. It's really hard to get tickets, so why not just watch their show from the comfort of your own couch?
Well, there you have it. Consider Hollywood Suite an oasis of great music all this month. Right, Emily?
Right, Bill.
And we're back. You made the point, you were on CNN. Anderson Cooper had a special Sunday night, and that this isn't, a lot of people just assume, well, late night talk show hosts have never attacked presidents before.
Yeah.
And actually, that's not true, is it? You look back at the history of it, and it's
Absolutely.
a long and storied history, right?
Did they use any of the jokes I repeated? I went back and found jokes.
Yes. Well, you the one about Jay Leno made, I think, about the sketch artist for
Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
Johnny Carson about Nixon.
Yeah.
He said,
what was the joke?
Official portrait will be made by a police sketch artist.
That's a good joke.
It's a terrific joke.
Yeah.
And people say Johnny, not political. Johnny, not political. Yeah. And that's what the conservatives, we have to get back to Johnny Carson. Well, you know what? If Johnny Carson was alive today, what do you think he'd be saying about Donald Trump?
Right.
He'd be making jokes about Donald Trump every single night. Now, he might not do such point of view jokes, maybe, but he'd be hammering the guy, hammering him. Jay Leno did 4,600 jokes on Bill Clinton.
Unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah.
Twice as many as any other figure, even more than OJ. 4,000, every single one of them was about him womanizing, right?
Yeah.
Basically, I would say almost every single joke. And what did Bill Clinton say about it? What did he do or say about it?
Right.
Nada. Nothing.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, and Carson, when things were, there was a lot of unrest in America in the 60s, he literally handed the show over to Harry Belafonte for a week, right? And he had
Martin Luther King was a guest.
Right.
And Martin Luther King was a guest.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I think
he did not think he could do it himself.
Yeah.
And he was right at that time, probably.
Yeah.
In order to really capture this, you need to have someone who was in touch with this. And he gave him an entire week of doing the Tonight Show. And that was in the height of the conflict over civil rights.
It was early in 68.
The other thing I said about Carson is, Carson was there. It was the era of mass viewing, right?
Right.
He had 3 networks. He was the king of late night, unchallenged. Really, there was nothing on against him. So he was a mass appeal guy. That's what he had to do. He had to do that. Now everything is siloed. Everything is siloed.
Right.
Johnny Carson I don't think he would be as outspoken, but his views would hew close to these guys. He saw through buffoonish people, you know?
Yeah.
That's what he did. He when it was a chance to make a joke, he'd make the joke. It wouldn't be maybe as deeply personal, I think Kimmel is really outraged by this guy. You know what I mean? Like in Colbert,
Right.
they're just outraged by him.
Right.
But Johnny would carve him up like a Christmas turkey. I mean, he just would.
But Carson would say on 60 Minutes things like, people watch me, they're going to bed, they're looking past their feet at my face, and they don't want to be disturbed. They want to have a nice night's sleep.
Yeah.
That would have been the difference. But you're right, that incident with Harry Belafonte, what he hosted, was those two guys. Robert Kennedy was a guest too, and King. Yep. They were both assassinated months later. Like it was right then,
Yes.
So it is a bit shocking. But you must think, and I don't know if you've talked to Kimmel about this, Colbert as well. These guys didn't get into this to be crusading for rights and freedoms. They were there to tell jokes, right? I mean,
Colbert, of course, did the Colbert Report, right?
Right.
Which was a send-up of right-wing talk show hosts. Yeah. Brilliant on belief, by the way, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah.
Spectacular. 9 years, he did a sketch for 9 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
He did. Yeah. And brilliantly. And so, when that show was funny, it was gut-bustingly funny.
Yes.
And he did it so well that a few Republicans at the beginning thought he was with them. Absolutely. There was a guy named Tom DeLay who was one of the leadership of the Republicans in the Congress. And he said, well, at least we got that guy Colbert on.
Wow.
Like he did it that well, and they were that dense. But so his point of view was to always make fun of these guys, right? It always was that. But not Jimmy. Jimmy was not a political guy at all when I first met him. I met him literally before the show went on. I wrote a magazine piece about them putting the show. So I was there the week before the first show went on. That's how I met him. And we became very friendly. So I would see him all the time. And he was, he was a broad comic. He really was. He was not a narrow casting kind of guy.
Yeah.
And that's what ABC wanted, because they actually had almost a verbal deal with Stewart to take the job.
Wow. And
Stewart wanted it because in those days, being on cable was truly like AAA,
Right.
And going to the network so John was strongly leaning toward it. And then at the last minute, Lloyd Braun, who you probably remember.
Yes. Yeah.
Went golfing with the guy who started, who brought Survivor over to America and other reality shows. And
the British guy, Burnett, Michael Burnett.
No, not Burnett.
Oh,
no, not.
I know who you mean. Yeah, Michael
Davies.
Yes, Michael Davies, right?
Michael Davies. So he went golfing with Michael Davies, and he said, I'm close to making a deal with Jon Stewart, but I'm a little worried about it because John is great, but he might be very coastal. He might be East Coast, right. West Coast. And ABC, as you probably know, for some reason, networks had an identity, and their identity was blue collar. They were Roseanne. They were Home Improvement. Right. They were Laverne and Shirley. They were blue collar.
Yeah.
And so they was a little worried about that. And Davey said, "You got to look at this guy, Jimmy Kimmel. I hired him to do Win Ben Stein's Money, the game show, which was really good, and Jimmy was really good on that.
Yes.
And he went and looked at those tapes, and he's like, yeah, I kind of like this. And the real, as you pointed out, the real twist to this is that they have the same manager.
Yeah.
So somehow they had to navigate the Jimmy getting that show and John staying at the Daily Show, and neither fired the manager.
Yes. Well, that's pretty good.
Anyway, but my point is that Jimmy was a middle of the road guy.
Yeah.
Is what he was. He wasn't an outspoken. He would obviously understand the broad difference between, hating black people and not hating black. He would understand that.
Yeah.
Way better than we seem to have now. But he wasn't out there hammering these things.
No.
But obviously, the thing with his son really changed his life.
Right.
Right.
That's when it became personal for Jimmy,
It
right?
became deeply personal for him because his son had this incredible emergency right after birth, incredibly expensive, heart surgery on an infant.
Yeah.
And it was exactly contemporaneous with Trump trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
And he came out and said, "This is outrageous." I mean, look, I admit I'm a millionaire. I can pay whatever my son needs, but anybody's kid could have this.
Yeah.
And what would they do without the insurance? The kid would die. And he got very emotional and he teared up and and McCain voted it down. I mean, I don't know if he did it directly because of that, but it was huge,
heroic.
huge. And then he was attacked and attacked and attacked for, getting in the middle of this and all of that. But he was telling an essential truth to Americans, which was we can't not have a regular person the same protection as a rich person. It's just wrong.
Yeah, no.
And I think that changed him significantly, as it would any of us.
It struck such a chord, and McCain was so vilified too by the White House just for being the vote that went the other way.
Still kicked him around.
Right.
Still.
Yeah, no, I met Jimmy. He came to Toronto with his buddy doing the Man Show. And talk about
who's a big conservative.
Right. I know. It's very interesting. But, Jimmy had the show where there's women jumping on trampolines every time it got dull, It was, so his roots were a lot broader for sure. But my goodness, I guess even then, though, a guy from Brooklyn, he didn't stand down to bullies. That seemed to be part of his spine forever, right?
Well, it's interesting because one of the things I guess it was when I wrote about him, the decision to bring him back, I said he's a Brooklyn guy. He didn't back down. He's got his spine.
Yeah.
And he was, he has thought about leaving the show. So he wouldn't have broken his heart.
Right.
Because he was in a business say to ABC, if you expect me to crawl on my belly to this guy, I'm out.
Right.
I'm out.
Yeah.
But I'll continue to talk. I'll say, what I want to say. And I don't know how that went. And Jimmy's sort of been needling me about writing another book. I've given him.
Bill, I was going to ask you. It's been handed, puts in your lap. This has got to be another book, I think. Right?
It's not because the real difference, Bill, is that it's not just an industry book. The politics is a big part of this book, and
right. Yeah.
One of the keys to writing books the way I have is that you have access to everybody, and I haven't got no access in that world. And even though I was once considered a genius by Donald Trump.
He was really?
Oh wow. My God. I'm sure I've told you this story.
No.
Do you want to hear the story?
Yes.
Okay, so he gets The Apprentice. Everybody in New York thinks he's a buffoon and kind of a fraud. He's making all this money. But he gets the show, and, I'm pitched to do an interview with him. So at the time. So I sit down with him and we do an interview, and he's very concerned, clearly, that the show's going to flop.
Right.
Because it's been finished, but it's not on the air. And he's distancing himself. Oh, this took up. I'm a very busy guy. This took up so much of my time. I don't think I could ever. I didn't know what I was thinking to give all this time to this thing, and he's trying to give himself space if it flops.
Right.
So I write that story, right? But I say something about how he got involved. It's a down the line sort of down the middle story, and then the show's a hit, right? Show's a big hit. So then I talk to him again about it being a big hit, and he's full of bluster. Well, look at this, this is what America likes, Anyway, 3, 4, 5 weeks into the show's doing very well, right? Yeah. You must remember it took off.
That first season, yeah.
I forget what night it was. I think it was on Wednesday night initially. It was not on Thursday. Moved it to Thursday when Jeff Zucker got in there. Mm-hmm. So NBC decides they're going to run a repeat of the previous week's episode on Tuesday night. Okay. So a new one will come on Wednesday. The previous week will be on Tuesday. Trump calls me up. He's going wild. He's going ape. what the fuck are they doing? They're undermining my show. It's only been on for a few weeks. They're running repeats already. What are they going to do? They're trying to destroy the show. And he's going crazy. And I listened for a while. And I said, Mr. Trump, they're helping you. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, look, your show's a new show. It comes on the air. It's doing well. It's getting really great word of mouth. And it's growing. So they're saying people will watch the show on Wednesday, and then they'll tell their friends that you got to watch that Apprentice show. And they'll be able to watch Tuesday and catch up before the new one on Wednesday. So you're going to add viewers on Tuesday that haven't seen the show yet, and then they'll show up on Wednesday, and your ratings will get better. And he's on the phone. He takes a long take, and he says, "You are a genius. You're a genius."
Well, Bill,
I was like, no. This is fundamental.
Right,
I thought, no, you know this stuff. So then he's constantly calling me, constantly. What about this? What about that?
Wow.
Every clips that are written about him, he mails them to me. By the way, I saw that signature. I knew it was instantly him when I saw that drawing.
Wow.
Because I had that signature. But anyway, so he's going through all this. Then Melania is I think we were in L.A. at mid-season, right? And the NBC had one of their parties after their days. And Melania is at the party. He's engaged to her at this point, right?
Right.
So he's there, and he sees me. He waves me over. He says, Melania, you got to meet this guy. This guy's a genius. You got to meet this guy.
Wow. Bill, he didn't invite you to any parties on an island, did he? Or
no.
No.
But anyway, he continued to contact me, and then I get a call from his assistant, very nice woman, and she says, "Oh, Mr. Trump asked me to call you because he wants to invite you to the wedding."
Well, wow. Really? With Melania?
Like, yeah.
Wow.
And I'm, yeah. Well, and she said, so it's
where was that, Bill?
Huh?
Where was that being held?
Guess.
Epstein, he's involved in this story, isn't he?
No, he's not. He probably was at the wedding, but
okay,
no,
I don't.
He was at Mar-a-Lago. Okay, so the
Mar-a-Lago. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Of course it is. Yeah.
So Palm Beach, right? So I'm like, I want no part of this.
So you are a genius.
So I say, but I'm like, I don't want to be offensive about it, or So I said, well, listen, I that's very generous, but I have to say, it's in Palm, and it was short notice. Like, somebody canceled and he thought of me, but he, it was like 2 weeks away, or I don't know. So I said, but my wife and I really, it was supposed to be with my wife. My wife and I are really not in a position to, just fly down to Palm Beach and get a hotel. And, that's really not, we're not really in that category of guest that I'm sure he has. And she says, "Oh, no. He will send his plane for you."
Oh my God. Yeah. That crossed a line or two, I think, right?
And I'm like, well, this is now, So I said, well, and I thought of this on the spot, and I thought, this was genius. This is genius.
Yeah.
I said, well, that is an extraordinarily generous offer. So let me say this. If I were to do that, if I were to accept that and do that, Mr. Trump would have to understand I could never write about him again.
Brilliant. You took yourself out of the spot. Very good.
Yeah.
Don't go away. Bill Carter will be right back after these messages. For over a decade, Super Channel Heart and Home is where you find such family favorites as One Calls the Heart. Well, there's now a new drama in town with a similar feel, Crossroads Springs. The story centers on the Hamilton family who run Red Oak Ranch, including adult siblings James, a pastor, and Janet, an ER doctor. When their elderly father Willis is thrown from a horse, the siblings have to leave their careers and life elsewhere to help with the ranch. To make matters worse, there's rivalry and tension with the neighboring farm. Things get so bad, James starts a come-as-you-are church right on the farm. You might say he's outstanding in his field. The series was filmed in the Newmarket, Ontario area north of Toronto and stars Jonathan Stoddard and Canadian Emily Latalo. If family drama is what you're after, say giddy up to Crossroads Springs. Find it now exclusively in Canada among all the offerings this month on Super Channel. And we're back with Bill Carter. I too have met Trump. I've interviewed him in his office. And Bill, one thing I must say, he is in person. He has a very sharp and charming, and he flattered me as well. When he literally said that he checked with NBC about me, and they said, if you talk to one guy in Canada, and I thought, wow, this guy is really full of shit and lying. But I felt, nice and warm, and let's go on with the interview. So I can see why people fall under his spell, right?
Yeah, he was setting you up. Setting you up. Of course he is.
Yeah, all the time.
And I don't blame him for that, by the way. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
If you want to handle the press that way, now he just says you're a moron. You don't know anything. You're a fraud.
Loser. Yeah. Or worse, you're a Canadian. Yeah, it goes on and on.
I have one last thing that happened here. So, much later, he's running for president at this point. The Times has this big buyout, right? It was such a great buyout. I said, I got to take this. And the Times was like, don't take this. We don't want you to take it. It's for people we're trying to get rid of. I said, no, I got to take it. It's like, unless you'll do it again. And they said, well, we don't know. So finally, I take it, right? So I'm announced as one of the people that is taking the buyout, right? Officially. So Trump sends out a tweet. How can the stupid New York Times fire a great reporter like Bill Carr?
Wow. Big help. Do you think Bill Maher did more harm than good by accepting an invitation to dine with him?
Well, he didn't do any good, I don't think. But I'm not sure it was harmful to him. You mean harmful to his career? Or
I think he got a lot of
him sound reasonable.
Right.
Make him sound reasonable. Well, he's backed off that already. I mean, he's now pretty full on the attack on the guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, my first reaction to this is you were fooled, Bill. I mean, this is. If you give this guy any credit,
right,
you're being sucked into that incredible sort of cultish thing he's got going, and I knew that it would backfire on him. I knew it would backfire on him because Trump will continue to do more and more things, and especially with the Epstein thing, he now has to do that. Everything he does is, I think, partly a diversion.
Right.
To keep people from constantly talking about that. I mean, he's now going to fire. The government's suspended. He's going to use an excuse to fire more people. Like, objectively thinking, you step back and say, they're human beings. You're throwing their lives into disarray. What kind of person are you? I thought of this yesterday, and he's being celebrated for that. And the stupid video he sent out mocking the people with the mustache and the sombrero.
Unbelievable,
a president of the United States, and they love him for that love. And I thought, everything is about being cruel to people, treating them terribly, ruining their lives, and celebrating it. That's all part of it. I said, in every aspect of humanity that we have ever encountered, in literature, in art, in movies, in songs, and everything, those people are the villains. That's what a villain does. He steps on people. He ruins their lives. He enjoys hurting people. They're villain. They're literally accepting that and enjoying it. They're enjoying it like I'm a villain. Hey, look at this. Look how mean I can be.
It's cartoonish. It's almost like he's twirling a mustache.
Absolutely.
It is shocking.
Absolutely. It's and the fact it's not when you know him, it's not as shocking because he's such a narcissist and he's kind of a sick guy. I mean, he's in some ways I don't blame. I think he's very disturbed. I think he's a disturbed person actually. Mm-hmm. But the people who support him, what's wrong with them?
Right.
You've seen villains your whole life. You don't recognize this? This is a caricature of a villain. He's Snidely Whiplash.
Right. He is. It's exactly what he is. And just I wanted to ask too about Conan O'Brien. I just, we're talking about Sinclair and Nexstar and the affiliates and all this big tug of war and power, and it seems really when you just drill right down to it, the audiences for the late night talk shows aren't what they used to be, and especially among 18 to 49, that they're really talking just about thousands of people. It almost seems kind of a funny argument that we're even consumed by this now in the last days of broadcast. You know what I mean? Like, it seems to be that Conan O'Brien has shown this way out for guys like Kimmel and Colbert. Create a podcast video series. You're beyond the reach of the FCC, apparently, or there's all kinds of reasons to do it, but one of them is money, right?
Yes, I will say this though. Conan was brilliant last year. I mean, last year was amazing. He killed at the Oscars. The Mark Twain thing was amazing.
Yes, right? Yes.
And his podcast is really good.
Yeah.
It's not his show though. And when he did his show, he did some amazing, creative, crazy, fabulous comedy. And I think late night misses that. I think they miss that because, Stephen Colbert finishes his monologue. He often doesn't do any other comedy. He doesn't really do a lot of or creative stuff. They don't do a lot. I mean, Kimmel the other night, his first night in Brooklyn, he did these three guys named Tony, right?
That was fantastic. Really great.
Really funny, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's part of late night. Don't just do and Conan did brilliant stuff. 202. Here's the the fake breast channel or something. Like, remember he did all this all kinds of stuff like that. And I miss that. I really miss that. And I really wish he did once a month or something, a show where he did stuff like that.
But he could not. The NBC could not afford to fund that show today. I don't think at that level of comedy.
Do it on HBO.
Yeah, but on once a month or 4 times a year.
Oliver on every week.
Yeah. Well, do you think that's the future then for late night on broadcast, that they have to cut back on nights? Is there a way to continue to have that franchise? Look, CBS is ditching the whole thing. Couldn't they have, cut out the band or put them on 3 nights?
Well, I did that with Seth Meyers. They cut out the band and they made him tape 2 nights a week. Even they only have 4 shows, but they tape twice on Monday now. Yeah. So they're saving money every way they can. Yes, the finances are bad, really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
And NBC has to face. I mean, I think NBC is thinking they want to be the last soldier standing, because back when it was only the Tonight Show, if it was only one of them, it might have the economics might work. But the fact is, young people don't watch linear television at all.
Right.
They never watch it at all.
No.
So yes, to me, the answer is to find another distribution system of some kind. I mean, YouTube is growing. I can see something percolating there. I can see that. But because that could also be immediate. I think you have to have it same day. Mulaney's show was live for that reason. He was trying to make it live. And by the way, I think they all should be live. I think you should do the show live. It gives it an element of excitement. But it's doomed because the networks are doomed. It's not so much the format is doomed because they watch the comedy routines the next day. People are watching them online on their YouTube subscription or whatever. So the format is not what's killing them. What's killing them is that the audience is gone. They're not watching. How do you know who's on Jimmy Kimmel if you're never watching ABC? Right.
Let me ask you, Bill, then, is Saturday Night Live doomed? I mean, no? Why not? It's an expensive show.
Yeah, but it's a tremendous brand. Yeah. And it still attracts young people.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates incredible buzz. Unbelievable. But look at I told you the Bad Bunny thing, right?
Yeah.
And Taylor Swift may do a cameo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there'll be other interesting cameos, and they get noise for that, and they get attention for that. And if NBC said, we're out of this, a streamer would buy that in a nanosecond.
Right.
Saturday Night Live is a brand. It's a giant brand now. So I think that's impermeable. And frankly, if they threatened the license, it would mean nothing. They would find that that show would go to HBO instantly. There's no threat to the show.
Right.
Other than maybe Lorne Michaels shutting it down, or somebody saying if Lorne's not there, it'll shut down. But NBC wouldn't let that happen. And I think anyone could buy the brand. Because, by the way, Lorne sold the rights back to NBC. He doesn't own the show anymore.
Oh, really? Wow. Did not know that.
That was in the biography of Lorne. That I didn't know that till I read the biography of Lorne.
Okay. Why wouldn't Paramount Plus why didn't, Colbert Show would just migrate there after next May? Why aren't those options, and why not stream Jimmy Kimmel
Well, the options are there. I mean, Colbert basically has said, "Hey, Netflix, I'm here."
Yeah.
So he'll turn up. He will turn up. He definitely is going to turn up somewhere.
And finally, just what about Fallon? Like, he seems to have taken his foot off the gas this week in terms of attacking Trump. Obviously, he's probably trying to produce content that's at least different from the wild party that's happening on ABC now and Colbert. But where do you see his ratings? He's been sort of punished for it in the ratings. What do you think is going to happen?
It's an interesting situation for him because he isn't a passionate political commentator. He isn't.
No.
So when he does it, it's a little half-hearted,
Yeah.
And that kind of shows a little bit. Now, his audience is not 100% anti-Trump the way the other guys is. You see occasionally he'll have a guest on who's not sort of a pro-Trump guest. I mean, he kind of was walking the line, and he's trying to be. He's a very skilled entertainer. The guy's very talented. He's a very talented guy.
Yeah.
So he's trying to walk, but there's a thin line between lighthearted and silly.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
And I admire him a lot for his skill. He's a tremendous impressionist and all of this. The musical guy. But the games bother me. I mean, he does these games they don't appeal to me. And they may have research that says it works. Okay, fine. Jimmy's not asking my advice, although he has on occasion, but not right now. And I like the guy, so I hope he does okay. But I think he's maybe holding out to be the Tonight Show guy when the other shows closed down. I mean, his band has got to cost a fortune.
Right.
It's a real band.
Yeah.
That's a tremendous band. Yeah. And he's got Lorne behind him, and that's very important. That's very important. So I think his strategy is to surf the waves for a while and not get in the water.
I guess, but if you're only drawing 1 million too,
it's a concern. It's definitely a concern. And he goes out and does all this other stuff. He is a franchise unto himself for sure. And popular. He did a show after the Sunday Night Football recently.
Right. I have to say, just finally too, that we're talking about games and things. Jimmy Kimmel is a terrific host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's a whole other guy. He's like the wise man in the seat. Yeah. And if they use Jimmy for Find a Friend, he knows, I just think it's kind of cool. I think, as you're right, Kimmel's he's got to be tired of doing the big show. He's got to keep all his cousins and aunts and uncles in business, but I think he'd be happy just doing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right?
Here's the thing, Bill, and I'll ask you your opinion on this.
Yeah.
Having been out there now as the guy who stood up, as the guy who said free speech is more important than anything.
Yeah.
And Jon Stewart on last night said, "Yeah, Mr. How about you, Mr. Free Speech?" He said to him. Does he now say, "I got to hang in here. I can't go away. I got to, because I can't look like I backed off at all." I mean, Trump's got 3 more years.
Well, judging by the Kimmel shows the last all week, he has not backed off. The language it's just as vicious and it's hilarious. So I think he's trying. I think he's trying to get fired again so that he can just.
In his head, he's had a foot out the door,
right,
for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And his contract is up in May.
Right.
So does he say, "All right, I'll hang in for one more"?
I don't know. It's a great question, Bill, and it's one you'll be answering in this book that you are going to write. And this is nonsense that these guys won't talk to you. Ted Cruz is going to be like begging to talk to you. It'll be a great, because it's political. It'll be great for you and great to read. So I hope you consider it, because
the phone lines are open. Let me say that. The phone lines are open.
Very good. Glad to hear it. All right. Well, Bill, thank you so much for your time today. I know you're very busy. You must be exhausted from all
right now, I'm actually just hungry.
Okay. Yeah, me too. So I'll let you go have lunch. And I hope to see you sometime. I don't know. Do you come to Toronto, or I'll go down there? We got to get together.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can cross the border for another 3 years. Well, so you might have to come up here.
You guys. Yeah. For me, they might not let me back.
Okay. Well, they'll let you back because you're a genius, So
genius, that's right.
That'll work. Anyway, Bill, great to see you again.
Fun.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
Fun.
Yeah. My thanks again to Bill Carter for his time and insights. Always great catching up with that other Bill. Thanks to my producer, Phil Hong, for defying the FCC and continuing to edit these podcasts. Thanks as always to BJ Del Conte, Paul Boudra, and the Crispy Critters, as well as piano man Stephen Dudley, for the music heard on these episodes. Finally, thank you to you, listener. If you like what you heard, please spread the word. I'm Bill Brio. Thanks for listening.